So, Bam and Khun finally meet face to face for the first time since the ending of Season 1. And honestly, I was not expecting that. Hello everyone and welcome to the Anime Zillia, and thank you for joining me as we talk about the Workshop Battle Prologue, Amelia, The Connection, and the Devil's Right Arm story arcs from the Tower of God webtoon series. Some really fun chapters with a lot of action and some great character backstory. Let's talk about it. So let's start off by talking about Hyo-Yang's backstory. A story that really built up the lore and the world sort of building of the Tower of God universe by giving us some more information about the workshop itself. I hate the thought of using kids as experimental materials. Well, that's what they call it at least. However, I love the fact that this workshop does this, as it adds another layer of darkness to the dark side of the tower. Plus, we learn that the place where Hyo-Yang came from is forbidden to have children without permission. Again, this also opens up the other issues within the tower that we've seen beforehand about people not being completely free within the tower. And I absolutely love this because this obviously is what ultimately needs to change. And you know what? The more we learn, the more invested I am in this story. And this backstory for this character was something that was much needed and well deserved. Honestly, I love this backstory, especially the parallels between Bam and Hyo-Yang's character. They both have similar histories. Hyo-Yang and his friend was treated like tools. Like, you know, they weren't even human by the other scientists. Except when it came to Sophia, she brought a light into their lives. I think the line was, because of her, they managed to love again. And that kind of symbolizes and reflects in Bam's character, because it's just like how Rachel brought light into Bam's darkness. Both Bam and Hyo-Yang started the tower without a family. They entered the tower, no family. But as they climbed, they started to make friends, and in turn, they made friends that they could call their own family. And that, of course, is the team that they currently have. This I absolutely loved. I love it when they connect two characters together or they make similar parallels. And we can see that Bam's character actually picked up on this by his facial expressions while listening to the story, and the fact that he called Hyo-Yang up to the roof afterwards. I thought that was brilliant. So hopefully we get to see Medoc, the doctor that was performing experiments on Hyo-Yang in the workshop tournament arc, because I believe there are some very interesting bits of dialogue or segments that could occur with these characters. Hopefully so. If not, it's still going to be great. I just have faith in the series. Overall, I love this segment of these arcs, as it adds more layers to the character of Hyo-Yang, so to basically make him a bit more interesting and make you understand where this character has come from. Plus, the way they incorporated Bam into the plot thread that goes throughout these arcs that I'm about to cover was just excellent story writing from my personal perspective. They made a character like Hyo-Yang have a similar story to Bam's, which made Bam on a surface level connect with Hyo-Yang and want to back him up. Bam by this was going to the other team members when Hyo-Yang ran off, was like, I'm gonna go bring him back. He's, you know, his place is here with us. And that just, it improves Bam's character and it improves this character even more. So that's why I liked it so much. He may be a light bearer, but not because he's weak. It's because he loves giving orders. Man, that line was great. So then, Khun's character. This really excites me because the way that these arcs end off, we could be in for some great character growth and development from Khun's character. As basically half his team are either against him, dead, or seriously injured. We don't know the living status of Ran and the other big guy that was with Khun at the end of this this arc. Plus, Khun finally got tricked / outsmarted, something which has not happened or we've not seen before from this series. Now, there was a mentioning of a certain, I think it was a ranker. I think Khun says, oh, I'm not going to be fooled by that blue ranker again. So I do wonder what that line was all about. But at the same time, this is our first official look at Khun being vulnerable and tricked. And I think that speaks a lot. Because it makes Foog's characters and members out to be so much more of a threat than we initially thought to start with. Again, it builds up characters that aren't directly involved with other characters, but it makes it work perfectly. That's why I like the story writing of this series, because you could be hyping up a character like Khun, but also at the same time hyping up the antagonists as well. Brilliant. Now, we shouldn't also forget the fact that Khun also knows that Bam is alive. So, will he start chasing Bam, or will he continue to climb the tower in hopes of meeting him again at a different stage, or even climb to try and make the wish of saving Bam from being a member of Foog and from his destiny that he's currently intertwined with? I hope to see something similar, but I know the way they're going to do it is going to be great, but I like the fact that now we have this confirmation. I don't for a second believe that Khun is actually dead, plus I would like for Rand to still be alive, because I think he's a cool character and he can offer so much more. He's got some cool abilities like his lightning spear that he used. That was awesome. And that Amelia text chat stuff could also play a big role in the future, as Khun obviously was seen typing a message. He typed a message asking if Bam was still alive, and it responded yes. And of course, Bam doesn't talk unless he's looking through the lighthouse in the end of this chapter. So the only time that Khun actually heard Bam's voice was, oh no, hold on, scrap that. Bam did talk, but he was making himself sound like an antagonist, so he was probably doing some voice work. But of course, when the explosion happened, Bam just shouted in raw emotion, Mr. Khun. So this, linked with those text chat messages, would also help to confirm in Khun's mind that Bam is still alive, but something is amiss. Something is a bit different than what he initially expected. The stuff with Rachel was rather something, I suppose, as we get to see her kind of showing off what her mental state is currently like, and what she's going to do to you if she feels like you are a danger to her dream. The panels with her kind of reacting to Dan's rejection was kind of brutal. I have unfortunately spoiled myself as to what happens to Dan, but I mean, I had to. Come on, I had to. She attacks his legs, making him not be able to walk, or to, crippling him in a sense. Now, I don't know any more than that. That's all I know. I know the fact that she attacked the legs and he went unconscious. Obviously, for a character like Dan, who's a speedster, his legs and being able to run fast is, near enough everything for him. But at the same time, Dan's character, when we first got introduced to him, said that he lost the will to climb the tower because he was not afraid, but he was fed up of seeing people die in front of him. And he's just seen his bird friend die, and he's just seen his team be betrayed, and he's just heard out that maybe Khun is dead because he's been targeted. But at the same time, you gotta feel for this character. I mean, he did the right thing in rejecting Rachel. I love the fact that he was he showed a lot of animosity towards Rachel and being like very spiteful towards her by saying, you're delusional or something, like, you got two good legs, just use them yourself. And then obviously Rachel snapped. I love that. That was brilliant. But yeah, poor Birdman. Hopefully Endorsing will visit your grave as a token to your wish. The stuff with Layla Rowe and Quint was hilarious. Seeing all those games being played and the faces being made it just made me laugh a lot, honestly. And I think the series has needed this kind of comedic segment placed right where they had it. Because the last arc that we read before this Quint and Layla Rowe stuff was quite dark and quite sinister. And an injection of comedy was a very smart choice, especially now knowing that the arcs that followed these events are a lot darker and more serious. So sometimes you need to have some comedic moments to help liven up and to help not depress the viewer, basically. So I really did like that. The Death Star reference was great, and luckily for me, I understood it because I've only seen one Star Wars film from start to finish. Yeah, I know. Anime fan hasn't watched all of Star Wars. Great. But I am intrigued to see what Leroy has gotten himself into, as it turns out that he's going to have to be helping Blueberry with a job in order to gain entry into... Oh dear, what? How do you say that word? Wallagon's Horror Song? I butchered that horribly. It's going to be up on screen, so you better read it yourself. But essentially, it's the group that we see Ulrich Mizuno a part of, and we know that Yuri has some ties and connections to. So hopefully, we get to see that expand on shortly afterwards. I'm hoping that's not just between, like, parts of the season. Because obviously this Leroy stuff came in between the ending of part 1 of season 2 and before part 2 season 2. So hopefully we don't have to keep waiting that long. I like a nice fleshed out arc, but hopefully, yeah, just gets expand on in the future. I mean, he may not get an award for his evil acting, but Bam certainly deserves something for his display of raw emotion in the form of despair. Because honestly, the ending of this block of arcs, with him looking incredibly distraughted, not knowing what he's done wrong to cause the Foog members to seemingly kill one of his friends. He's complied with everything. We even see him take back the detonation advice that Khun's team member managed to get hold of at the end. He nicked it back from them and was like, here you go. I'm still working with you. Don't harm them. And yet, the lady brought the hand crashing down. And the twist with like the whole who was hacking Khun's lighthouse and Bunny is, and it being the girl who was like leading Bam to there, that was kind of predictable. I'm not going to lie. I did kind of think it was one of Yuri's members to start with, but then it's because the segments were too close together. I thought it was a little bit more predictable than not, but at the same time, it still worked. It still was very effective. I don't think it was meant to be this like big, mysterious twist or anything quite like that. But at the same time, they're a member of Foog. It turns out that I think she just wants Bam to be with him because she like worships him as a god. I think I should have read one extra chapter. I might do that, and there might be a cut here. If there is, then, you know, I've read it, but yeah. Okay, so I have just read that the next chapter on. It turns out that Ran and the other character is still alive, and it turns out that this bunny girl with Bam wants to create a strong team for Bam to participate in the workshop arc with. So Ran and the other member with him of Khun's team is now joining Bam with the Foog members, and then it turns out that Khun did kind of get buried in the explosion and is with Wangnan and the others. So that should be a pretty interesting dynamic, because obviously Khun is now going to be in charge of Team Sweet and Sour, and Bam is obviously going to be working with Foog directly, which is what obviously Bam's teacher wanted back in the other arcs before this, because it was like he wanted to create Bam a strong team of members to climb up the tower with. So I like this dynamic. I think it's going to work very nicely. However, the showcasing of Bam's training with the Foog members was small yet very effective, and gave us more of an insight into the character of Jin Young, which is the character we saw in the last few arcs that I covered, where he was basically like, oh, Bam's my apprentice, he's really good, he's really this and that, and he was trying to get Bam's teammates to kind of leave so that he could create Bam a new team, but instead opted to let Bam stay with Team Sweet and Sour. And I like this because it shows that this character has a human side to him, which we haven't really seen from Foog members thus far. It's nice to see that this guy still has somewhat of a conscience, as he seems a bit torn at the start in training Bam, because he thinks that Bam's not the right person. They think they've got the wrong one. Plus, we learned Bam's reasoning as to why he wants to get stronger. And this is where the line comes from. Bam's character is probably one of my favourites. Is where he says he wants to get strong enough so that he doesn't have to say goodbye to anyone again. Like I said, this is probably one of my favourite lines from Bam's character that we've got. And honestly, I just like the impact that gave us. We did see with this teacher at Bam's that he did have a flashback with somebody else. So that kind of, I think, goes with his motivation of why he wants change in the tower and why he joined Foog. But we didn't get that elaborated on too much. So hopefully we learn bits and pieces as we go along. And I don't mind that, honestly. He's not a full front character. He's not a character I'm overly happy to see all the time. But again, I wouldn't mind learning a bit more information. Overall, with things really heating up, and I've been loving every second of it as a result. The action was amazing, showing off all of the side characters in a very positive light at the moment, and that's just a good thing. While at the same time showing that Bam has ways of improving. As we saw in the early stages of these 3 arcs, there was a mission that Team Sweet and Sour were doing where Bam was fighting someone, but he didn't look overly strong. He looked a little bit kind of weak and lackluster when comparing himself to those. Now maybe he wasn't using his full power, and that's understandable, but there was also a hint that maybe, just maybe, Bam is the same as Hyoyang in terms of being like an ignition type weapon. Because Hyoyang's story was all about him having a basically becoming a human ignition weapon. Bam doesn't say he's exactly like that, but he said something is similar. Something is sleeping within him and he doesn't know how to wake it up. But he doesn't have any more information than that. So maybe that's a way he can improve. Maybe he can find that thing that's lurking deep within him and awaken it. So yeah, I appreciate the fact that Bam shows improvement, because one concern I did have was the fact that Bam would be overly powered and no one on his team could stand up to him or keep up with him. And they still really can't keep up with him that much, but at the same time, it looks like it's not going to be as smooth sailing as Bam initially thought it would be. The art style was good and the attention to detail was on point throughout, which helped make a lot more of the segments have a lot more weight and impact behind the emotional display and just the display in general, which I really did like. And keeping the plot moving forward and building up the world of the Tower of God series as we keep going, keeping us as readers interested and intrigued and wanting to learn more is always a great writing technique, and it's on display in these arcs very prominently. And hopefully as we climb up the tower, we'll still get to see a lot more fun stuff, and hopefully you will join me as well as I climb up the tower, reading bit by bit, learning more and more. So I do want to know all of your thoughts on these arcs down in the comment section below. Have I missed anything? If I have, well, feel free to let me know in the comments, and we'll have a chat about it there and then. Or if there's too many stuff, I can always make a second video. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and press the like button, because it always helps me out. I said that the wrong way around. I meant to say hit like and subscribe if you're new so you never miss a video from me. Tower of God content every week and some other anime content with a few more things possibly coming in the future. I'm just trying to get bit stuff worked out. Other than that though, I hope you'll have an amazing day. Arigato, matane, goodbye.